Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. This week on the podcast, I have a very creative guest. Her name is Liz, and she is all the way in Los Angeles. She is an artist, and she also does a host of other things, including breathwork coaching and somatic healing, and just all these good, yummy things that help us to stay in the self-love zone, helps us to become more conscious with our bodies and our minds, and to work on our creativity. I'm so excited for you to hear this because there is a question that I popped into our interview that I really want everyone to hear the answer to because I get told this all the time. So I cannot wait for you to hear it from an actual creative's mouth. So welcome, Liz. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Liz Sanders. I'm an artist and soul coach. And what that really means is I help people move through their internal blocks to create external results in their life so that they can really create a life that they feel so inspired and fulfilled by, and that's filled with the desires that they want to create in their life. And I really specialize in creativity and mental health, mental well-being, and somatic healing to aid in that. And I'm just so excited to be here to chat with you.
Yay. Tell us where you are because I'm in South Africa and you are in?
I'm in Los Angeles, California, specifically Koreatown. So that's real central mid-city area.
Divine. I've been to Huntington Beach and yeah, we've been all over there when I was young, but I didn't go to Koreatown. I'm imagining that's a very creative place to live, like that specific area.
It's very kind of in the center of the city. It's bustling. We don't have like the big, any tall buildings, but it's always moving. Lots of no parking, not any parking, and lots of Korean barbecue. That's the big thing here, which I had never had before I moved to LA, but it's really fun. Me and my partner love to take people out and lure them to Koreatown to get Korean barbecue so we don't have to drive in traffic to go see them.
When I come this side, it's fun this side.
Exactly, yeah.
Very clever. So tell us, what does your self-love journey look like?
So, it started from very young age, although of course I think that's how everyone start, right? But I guess I say that in that there were tensions in my self-love from a very, very early age. I grew up outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I grew up in a household that, although it was middle class, and although I never really wanted for a lot of like physical things, and I was always well fed and all that. It was dysfunctional. It was a lot of emotional chaos, and I didn't have a emotional safe haven. So from a very early age, I was taking care of myself emotionally, which as a child is a very difficult thing. And so that was a really tough period, upbringing of my life. And I think the biggest part of what I think about my self-love in the very beginning is that I kind of figured out enough to know like this is not healthy, what is going on around me. All this shame and the tantrums and things like that. So I was like, this is not normal. Although like as a child, of course, it was normal for me. It was where I grew up. It felt very normal, right? But I was able to at least distinguish like there's something off here. And I was able to kind of create as much of a bubble as I could around myself through those years. And I think my self-love really showed through it, just like believing in myself that like, okay, things are not great right now, but I'm going to figure something out. I'm going to become 18 at some point where I can, create a plan to, remove myself from the situation so that I could hopefully blossom and actually grow into myself. And so at 18, I went to college, and that's how I ended up in Los Angeles. I was also very blessed and lucky that my grandparents could help me pay for college. And so that's why I was able to choose kind of any college I wanted. So I chose California to get some distance, and also LA has a lot of attraction to it, it's glamorous, who knows what could happen in LA. So I was very excited to move here, and I went to USC for art and design. And my thought process was, once I remove myself from this situation, I'll be able to feel more normal, be a happier life, everything will just fall back into place. Not quite what happened, unfortunately. I mean, obviously things got better for me, but I had been through a lot of trauma and I didn't actually realize that. And so I was living with a lot of effects of that again, and I didn't understand all of what was going on in my life. So I felt very isolated. I had trouble like connecting with people in college, and I made some friends, but it took a long time, right? Because I had a lot of fear and mistrust. I was also having, anxiety and depression episodes on and off throughout my life. And then as I like exited college too, a lot of like physical symptoms really started to happen when I started my first job, which was at a desk sitting, for multiple 6 to 8 hours a day. Started getting back pain and shoulder pain. And that turned into something that was chronic that I lived with for close to like eight or more years. And I'm still kind of working with the physical ramifications of the stress that my body has been under all these years. But I was to say, once I entered college and that second half of my life, that really started this deeper self-love journey where I could really give myself, start to try and figure out what do I need and try and give myself that. The one thing that pushed me forward was always just this belief that I deserved to experience a happy life, which I had not, up until through college. Like I had moments of happiness and small, short spans of happiness, but overall, it was very much, in and out of depression and anxiety and very stressful, right? But I was like, I know it's out there, I know it's possible, and I know it's meant for me, right? So I just started trying all the things that I heard that was going to help my like mental health mostly. So I started, with mindfulness, and yoga was really huge in the beginning of my journey. I know that you just started teaching yoga and you've been getting into that lately. That was really, really huge for a large period of time in my, self-love and healing journey. Like that was such a haven for me to, ease my body tension that I was dealing with, but also ease my mind. I remember like one of the first times I realized how helpful yoga was. I was working from home at my job as a graphic designer then, and something was going on with the client that was causing so much anxiety for me. And I was like, I have to go to yoga right now. Like, it doesn't matter. And I was working from home, so like I had set my schedule, I could do it. So I went to yoga. So that was like a really big shift for me, and realizing that like, I could find moments of peace. And so I've explored a lot of different things like that. And, eventually it didn't, it's been 14 years, this second part of my life, as I like to think about it. And it didn't take me full 14 years to find self-love and happiness, but I'm still delving into it and figuring out, the different aspects of it. And it's, and I also just being able to understand and put words to my experiences growing up and now has been so helpful in me in being able to embrace greater self-love, because of course in the environment I grew up in, there was a lot of mixed messages and like false beliefs, and like there wasn't a lot of self-love, which was part of the problem, right? I couldn't learn self-love from people who didn't know how to do that. So it's been a journey, but I've made it this far. And even this past few years have been so deep in, again, peeling back even more layers of how I can love myself deeper.
Mm. Gosh, yeah, that said it all. Like, how can you learn how to love yourself if your parents don't love themselves? Like, yeah, it's just, and it's so generational as well, because then they learning that from above and above and above and above. And I think that this, like our generation and the next generation, it's just going to be so conscious and so self-aware. And I'm just like, every time I see someone, I'm like, I cannot believe they're not they're not self-aware. Like they don't understand what they're doing. It's so hard when you, and it's people that you know, and you're just like, I don't, how do you not know this? But exactly that. It's just, it's learned, and it's not learned because of the generational trauma and the generational, like the way that they are. And just, I look at like our family and just noticing the differences and how certain people are a certain way, and they've taken it from the like one above and one above, and it's just like ripples down. So yeah, that is powerful, like completely. I think there's so many people that are sitting there nodding, like, yes, same.
Yeah, and I love the ripple effect of it too, like you were saying, like when you are able to learn it or unlearn what you learned that was incorrect, there is like this ripple effect, which has been beautiful to see throughout my journey because um, so many of my friends, like the people that I attracted into my life, also had childhood trauma. And by them being able to see that, like, oh, Liz just shifted something in her life, they could tell. I'm dealing with the depression, anxiety, things are becoming a little bit easier for me. Being able to see that has been also freeing for them because then they were like, oh, there's possibility for me too. And I've seen them shift too over the years, which is so beautiful thing to, it's like a gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, literally. I love that. So on that note, what is some self-love practices that you do each day?
So I am like love variety. So I rarely do anything like every single day. It's tough for me. I think it's part of like being a creative and an artist and like I always need something new. But I definitely have like a lot of really foundational go-to practices. I drink a green smoothie in the morning every morning to just get some vegetables, lower my inflammation. There's all sorts of benefits to that other than just like eating healthy. And then, of course, breathing, lots of deep breaths. If I'm not doing a full like breath work practice, breathing has been huge, just uh, powerful tool in managing my like emotions and my nervous system and everything. I love meditation too. I pair those together. One that has been really big to me in the last few years that um, is just like being able to simply like ask myself what I need in this moment and being able to give myself that. That one's really huge. Um, and another, I mean, I could go on and on. I lately again like just allowing myself to have like planning in the rest and the recovery and being really purposeful about that and intentional about making sure that gets planned in and doesn't get pushed to the side. So those are a few really big ones for me. And then of course, I making art has always been, a self-love practice for me and a place of like meditation and calm and just play and curiosity. So
Yeah, for sure. That's the best one. Just a quick little interlude here. If you're enjoying this episode, I would love to reach a lot more people and help them on their journey back to themselves. So if you could do me a favor, and most of you are listening on your phone, can you just press pause and head to the share button and send this to a friend that you think might enjoy it? It really does help me to reach more people, and it helps me to be able to help them and for them to then carry on their journey of self-love. Thank you. So you are an artist. Can you tell us how you have used art for your own healing, and how can our listeners use art and creativity to start their own healing journey?
definitely. So this question I have a kind of a pronged answer to because there's a couple things I want to touch on that I didn't touch on when I was sharing about my journey. But so one of the amazing things that art is does for us is it allows us to access maybe what we can't communicate via words, but what we're feeling. And so it's always been a super safe haven for me growing up, like making art that was kind of my getaway and hide and just make things and be playful. But also once I got to college, and I actually went to school for art, so my instead of writing papers, I was making art pieces, and often those turned into self portraitures because at this time period again, I was dealing with a lot of emotional stress and new environment and stuff like that. And I didn't understand it, right? And I was also, again, like communication was not the strongest skill that I had learned growing up. But I knew how to draw. And so I would draw these portraitures of myself. And it was really drawing what I was feeling and being able to express that. And so that was a really, really healing way for me to enter into those more intense emotions and be able to kind of process them. And also, like, these drawings would take, or these paintings would take, like 10 to 20 plus hours or whatever. So it's a lot of time to sit with your feelings and just be with yourself. So I think that's a hugely healing and transformative part about art, especially if you've been through trauma and adversity. Like, being able to draw it out can be very, very healing, and just allow you to move it through your body and get it out, and so that it gets processed more. But I think the other thing that I've been cultivating since college, so after college, let me just back up a little bit, give you a little background of this part of my story, which is that after college, I went and I became a graphic designer, and I really focused on that. I totally lost my creative personal art practice for a few years, and that increased my depression and all this stuff. And eventually, after a couple of years, okay, I was like, I feel not great at all. And I love making art and I'm not doing it and I want to do it. And I kind of had this feeling that because I wasn't making art, it was actually making the depression and things worse, that I needed this outlet, right? And so it became my goal to like find my way back to art. But of course, like having been not making for a couple years, and then also again, like living with depression and anxiety, once I sat down to make that art, I was incredibly blocked. I was experiencing a lot of this negative self-talk, this feeling of like, well, you went to school for art, so you better be good at it. You better make something that looks like impressive, right? So that did not help. So I went through a long period, a couple years or so, where I was really stuck and blocked, but I was able to work through it just like I was doing with my mindfulness practices. I was also approaching this creative practice with techniques to figure out how I could find that flow again. And so that has pushed me forward to kind of this course that I just finished, actually, called Unleash Your Creativity, which is helping people move through creative block with all the things that I've learned from my own experience and from working with my clients. And okay, here we go. I'm going to come back around to it. I got it. And the point of it is, one of my biggest learnings about creativity and sitting down to make art or write or whatever it is you're creating is that it's a fear-facing practice. And so whenever you're facing your fears, you're growing and you're healing. And it can be a very safe place for you to explore some of those fears that are not actually real threats, right? They're perceived threats. They're fears of what others will think, or fears of, is this good or bad, right? And so if we can allow ourselves to just create and move through the process again and again, you actually grow past those fears. And so that can be incredibly healing.
And I think that's the thing. It's not actually, when it comes to creativity, it's not about the end result. It's about the journey and the like meditation that you can go through when you're doing it. On one of my retreats that I hosted, we did like dot art. I'd never done it, but my friend had done it. So she just gave me all the paint and the pages, and she just sat at home and used to do it. And like everyone, it was so funny to see the different personalities, because there were people that were like, oh, it's hideous, I'm throwing it away. And others that were like, that was so fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. And it was more about, and I'm like, it's not about that. We had headsets and they're listening to music, like, just meditation music. And it was more about being in the moment and enjoying it than about what it looked like at the end. And I think that's the part of healing as well. It's not about what it looks like at the end. It's about how you're feeling in the journey. So yeah, I can see there's such a correlation between like healing, self-love, and art, and creating an art piece.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I definitely see that. Um, one of my own beliefs is kind of that the creative process is just a microcosm of the macrocosm of the life process, right? And the more you practice the creative process and create trust in that, you can create greater trust in your life too.
Oh, I love that. So good. So when you paint, this is one thing I was interested in. When you paint, do you have a certain playlist that you listen to, or do you do more silent painting?
Definitely not silent painting. I definitely love music. It's not like a specific playlist. I kind of typically I'll just put my Spotify on shuffle for all my liked songs and just dance and sing as I paint and allowing like that kind of creative energy to flow through me. But I will say sometimes I do specifically will even like not every time, but I'll open up my creative practice with dancing and setting creating the, pulling in the energy and, getting it moving through me, opening up the hips where a lot of creativity is. So that's a really big like ritual for me to get that creative energy flowing for sure.
Oh, I love that. That's a little self-love practice, like getting,
Exactly.
yeah, I love that, shifting all the energy. There's one thing that I told you that I'm so excited to ask you about. So many people tell me that they are not creative at all. So what would you say to them?
I mean, I would say I don't believe that. I definitely believe that every single one of us are creative beings. They may just be really blocked. Like that's kind of the way that I interpret when people are like, "I'm not creative." My interpretation of that is that they're simply just so blocked from being creative because there's so much fear around it, which was probably created by some kind of memory from their past where some art teacher was not being very supportive and told them they weren't creative at age like 5, and they've taken that on for the rest of their life. And it's I call those creative scars. And the truth is that we're all creative. I really think that if we're not creating, a lot of times it's destroying us inside, which is kind of like what I was talking about when I realized that I had lost my creative practice and my depression was getting worse and worse. That like we have this energy that needs to move through us. And we also are like, I feel like we're destined, with our soul destiny to like make something, whatever it is. Like not everyone's meant to be a painter. I'm not saying that, but like everyone's meant to make something, whether it is, you know, writing in your journal or writing a book or making a podcast or, creativity. There's such a narrow view of creativity as just art, but actually like creativity is how we get the internet, and it's like it applies to science and medicine and everything. So like it's a building block of life. You can't not be creative. It's basically how I feel about when people say they're not creative.
Yeah, and I read something once where the person had said, if you flower arrange in your house, you're being creative. If you are good at putting together your outfits for the day, like maybe that's what you enjoy.
Exactly.
Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's cleaning, maybe, like there's so many ways to be creative. I think everyone always thinks paint or draw. And it
Yeah.
could be about how you do your hair or what, like makeup artists. I mean, imagine telling people that makeup artists aren't creative because they don't paint or draw. I mean, hello, the makeup TikTok blows my mind. Like,
Making magic.
there's a South African girl, this black girl in South Africa that I found, and she's actually from Durban. And Durban is very small compared to like Joburg and Cape Town. All the American movies, you'll know, they will be like, oh, Cape Town or Johannesburg. It's never Durban. We are not the capital, or we are not big. But I somehow found her on TikTok. She is unbelievable. I can't even, like, I just watch her and I'm like, how did you like do the Eiffel Tower on your face? Like, how did she does such creative stuff that I'm just like blown away. And I think that's the thing. You could, maybe you sew, maybe you knit, maybe you crochet, Maybe you
Yeah,
paint dots on little rocks. I mean, like all of these things are being creative. Music, like we always just think like, oh, if unless it's an instrument, painting or drawing, like that's almost like how society says this is creative. But maybe you like cooking in your instant pot and trying new recipes, and that's being creative because maybe
definitely.
maybe you don't follow the recipe for once and you just chuck it in and try your own thing. That's being creative. And I think that people have this block about what creative is.
I agree so much. That's one of my like goals of my work is just to expand our idea of what creativity can be. That was something we talked about in the group program that I just ran, which was just being able to see even like just creating your life as a creative process. That planting the seeds, creating the foundation for that is creating something. And yeah, when we expand our idea of creativity, like we can see it alive in our life, right?
Mm, yeah, completely. So I'm so glad that you answered that because everyone always says to me, I'm not creative. And I'm literally,
I mean, I'll say too, I just want to add like people like think it's like, oh, you're the creative genius, and they like make it all about like it's innate, you're born with it. And it's like, yeah, it is innate. We're all born with it, first of all. But also like it's a skill. Like you may be more like what's the word? Just like for me, I'm like just I take on painting a little bit easier than others, perhaps. But it is just a skill, right? When it comes down to it, all you need is the time and the practice, and you can be just as good as any other artist. That's how an artist gets good. It's
mm.
just time and practice. It's to just demystify it. It's not genius, it's not just talent.
And I think that's the thing is like you can have a certain talent in something, but if you have consistency and you practice, it's like a sport. There can be someone who
Exactly.
has a natural born talent and is amazing at it, but there could be someone who's more passionate about it. And so they go to the extra coaching and all the extra lessons and they are just consistent in their practice. And so they end up being at the same level because that person has just put in the time and the effort like consistently.
Definitely. Yeah, consistency is definitely key.
I think if you looked at Olympic swimmers, I'd actually must research this. There's probably so many that have natural talent, but there's also so many that didn't have the natural talent that X, Y, and Z had, but they put in that consistency because they're so passionate. It's actually just, I bet you there are so many swimmers like that because it's not
Oh
just a
yeah,
natural talent. Because some people hate being with their thoughts in the pool doing their training nonstop by themselves because it'd be quite lonely. So yeah, I think creativity is definitely the same. Like you just have to practice it. Hmm.
I agree. Definitely.
I love that. Okay, so you guys heard that. You have to go and make jewelry or do something that you enjoy that is like really creative. So what is one thing you wish you could tell younger you?
um, I think really that it gets better, and that one of the things that I've been really working towards lately is just like inner child work. So like, letting her know that I'm going to be here to catch her in the future, and to hold her and to bring her forward and to create that life that she deserves and loves and desires.
Hmm. On that note about inner child work, so because creativity would be your sacral chakra and it's all about inner child, creativity, all that stuff, do you think that a lot of people aren't creative because they're also blocked in their sacral chakra? So I'm bringing the woo woo in, and that maybe it is inner child work that they need to do because, not just about the teachers who said, like, you really aren't creative but just about how they're brought up, especially if they didn't have creative parents, like we were saying about self love. So maybe it wasn't told to express yourself in that way. Like it's quite interesting when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I'll put an asterisk to this that like I have not done a ton of studying on the chakras, but I've gotten into them lately, and I definitely think, from what I understand, like the bottom three chakras are so much to do with survival, and so I think that having blockages there will definitely affect your overall ability to be creative because, like I said, creativity it brings up that fear, and you have to be able to feel safe in order to create. So if you can't make yourself feel safe, if you can't, be compassionate to your inner child and nurture them and allow them to fail or, whatever, so that you can create, then yeah, you're going to be blocked. So yes, I do agree. I think that inner child work is huge in being allow yourself to play, because also, I mean, to create, because your inner child is your inner artist. I think at the end of the day, they're really, really similar if they're not the same.
I love that. And I didn't even think about the root chakra because that is all about feeling safe and secure. And yeah, so it makes complete sense. You are gonna as soon as you start deep diving into chakras, you're gonna be like mind blown. You'll be like, wow, really? Especially that sacred.
Yeah, I just read a book on them. It's amazing.
It just makes so much sense. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand now. Oh, this has been so divine. I love chatting to you. Where can everyone find you and tell us more about the program that you're doing and yeah, all that kind of stuff?
So you can find me on my website, livsandersstudio.com, and there you can also sign up for my newsletter if you want to stay in touch. I'm also on Instagram. That's my social media of choice, although currently not active. I'm doing a self-love practice of taking a break. So I've been off, but I'm going to go back about mid-September. So whenever this airs might be around then. So I'll probably be back there. So that my handle is at LivSanders_create. And so the program that I just ran was called Unleash Your Creativity. And it was a beta round that I'm going to reintroduce probably for round 2 in the February is what I'm feeling. And so that one's a really great program. I'm going to expand it from 7 weeks to maybe closer to 3 months. And it helps you start out with like clearing through your blocks. And then it helps you create consistency and get in touch with your inner child. And basically the end result is to really increase your flow and deepen your connection to your creativity. In the near future, I'm going to be launching, something I didn't touch on, which is that I'm certified in breathwork and meditation. And that's also a huge part of my own practice, which I said, but I love sharing it with others because it's been so transformative for my own process. So I'm doing a breathwork and meditation group, which I haven't quite named yet, but that's going to be launching around October 11th. And so if you want to hear about that, get on the newsletter or follow me on Instagram, because I'm going to be promoting that starting mid-September, and I'll have a name by then, hopefully, too.
Love it. Yeah, I was like, oh, something to do with lungs, Liz's lungs. Like you've got to get you some breathing, opening up those lungs. Yeah. I love that. I think breath work is so important, and I think it is on the up now that people are actually taking note and actually like, oh, this makes sense. I'm going to do this.
It's so definitely becoming more mainstream.
Yeah, and just mixing it with creativity as well. It's just, yeah, it's going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much. So they will come and find you. You guys can follow so long, and then when she's off her detax, then you can go and then you will be engaging. But so long you can show us. Yeah. I'm really excited to see how this unfolds, and I'm going to wait to see the name.
Wonderful.
Kind of watch, see. But you're creative. Something's going to come up.
I'm putting the pressure on.
Gonna hit you like a creative beam of sunshine when you're sitting having your green smoothie one morning. I love it. So thank you for making the time in your morning. So yeah, time difference. It's always so funny to do. Good. I'm like, good evening, good morning. So I hope that you have just have a great sign up for that, and let us know how that goes. And obviously I'll share it in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for making the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, and I will share more about your journey as well as it unfolds. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme, and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.